What's up, dedicated Dragon Ball denizens? I am Ryan, and we're here for another episode of the Hawks Dragon Ball Nest. Excited for this one as we have kind of continuing revisions of decks in this episode, where we have that Gotenks deck that I had created a while back with the Vegeta as leader, and I thought, the synergy just felt like it could be better between what I was doing with the Vegeta deck as the lead with Gotenks, in terms of playing a little bit more defensive, playing with a lot of draw, a lot of hand power, a lot of getting stuff from drops. So it was a really defensive deck, and then I thought, well, Zamasu is pretty defensive. So let's try this deck out with Zamasu, and it needed a few tweaks with it, so it's not the exact same list, but it is a very similar list. It is a different way of playing Zamasu. I haven't actually practiced with a lot of the lists that you see now with, Zamasu's actually done really well during this era, being very defensive, very control-based deck. This one's not quite as control, it's more controlling our own hand and playing, like I said, really defensively, and then trying to hit hard late, but I think it works. I've been doing pretty well with it, so we'll see. We'll see what you all think. We'll overview that deck this time, and then in our next video coming out later this week, we'll get on and we'll get online and really test it out, right? But before we get into the deck this time, just remember, please, hit that subscribe button, smash it. Not with your actual hand. I mean, maybe if it's on your phone and, don't hit your phone too hard, but just smash that subscribe button so you can become part of the Hawks Nest. We are a fearless flock of fabulous folks who love to do what we love. I love building these Dragon Ball decks. I love to just explore and see what we can do here. So that's what I'm about here. So if you're not quite ready to fly yet, though, just hit that like button. It will show up again in an algorithm near you. Leave me a comment. What are some switches I should make in this deck? We are going to go over each card in depth, why I'm including it. Then we'll go over the strategy, strengths, and weaknesses of the deck. And then we'll think about some other cards to swap in and out. And I tried to get some, and I have some ideas in here, but let me know in the comments what else you think would work, and we will go from there. And here we are. I call this deck Zomtanks Fusion Chaos. I mean, we're just playing with pure fusion cards, especially now with Zamasu as the leader. These are pretty much all like fused people, except we've got Videl kind of hanging out here. We've got Mai, and we've got Pilaf, but other than that, I guess Android 18 is the super combo. It's all fusion people. So anyway, let's get into it. So we've got a lot of the core cards in here that I won't go over too much, right? We've got Videl, who's going to help us be able to draw some of these cards from drop, which are including our Gotenks, which we are going to need at some points during the game, or really any of these other bad boys in there. Of course, we've got Pilaf. Now, the reason I included Mai, aside from just being a 10k combo for a 1-drop, is really to kind of help us with our Gotenks, because Gotenks does let you bottom deck a 3-cost card, which isn't too crazy here, but it does work. It does help us at times increase the cost for the card, because otherwise we don't have anything else that's going to bottom deck anything higher than that. So it is kind of a weakness of the deck. You really have to just deal with those cards or try to save your Mais and do it that way, but it works. So then from there, we've just got our Trunks and Goten cards. So Trunks, that's going to be of course our draw card, our 1-cost, and we're going to be able to draw. And then I did throw in, just because I had some room, 2 more Trunks, because we want to, but it's the mini one, because we do want to be able to just draw and give as much opportunities to draw as possible. But really what we're doing is we're going to get this Trunks and this Goten. These are cards that you want to not only see early, but also use as a combo later on, which I'll explain in a second. So this Goten is going to let you draw a card upon play, as long as we have 7 or fewer in hand. Right? Now, the way that you're going to use this card later in the game to help you get back into the game is use it in combination with this Gotenks, this old Gotenks. So you can go ahead and attack with him because he is 20k, and then afterwards you can place it into your owner's drop, if you have 10 or more in your drop, you could play a Goten with 2 or less, and a Trunks Youth with 2 or less from your drop in rest mode. So that's what, these are the 2 you're always going to want to play. You're going to play them in rest mode, and then they're going to let you draw 2 upon that. So that can really help you flip a game. And then your opponent is going to have to deal with them during their next turn. Otherwise, these are also going to be 15k combo that you just got from your drop into play. So it's really, really cool game-changing flip sometimes that can help you get from a really slow slight hand to a really large hand and a large board for your opponent to deal with. So it's a really good play there. Now then, I do have 3 of the Videls. I'm actually even debating going down to just 2 and adding 1 more Trunks, but I don't know. I do find that I don't always need this Videl, you know, because we do have these options, but it's always good to have Videl because you do want to be able to draw him back from drop, really anybody on demand, and just help you keep your hand size at a good spot and to combo as pretty much any time in blue. So something to think about. Then of course we've got Trunks. You know, he's another one. A lot of times I'm actually not self-awakening with him anymore, but you do have him as a 10k combo. What I actually do like to do is pressure my opponent with him because I'm not really doing a lot of attacking early on. He's my one guy that I will attack and put some pressure on my opponent for, just to like get some cheap hand size down and really play a little bit of aggro early on. And late game, he can really come in clutch when you've maybe got 8 energy and just dropped yourself Goku Black. Maybe you've got 2 left and you can throw down this Trunks Youth out there for an easy 25k attacker. So he's pretty good, right? Gotenks, there's not a lot that needs to be said about him. We know that he's a 4 cost for 30k, and then if we have 10 or more in our drop, then he is going to get that 5,000 more power, and that's permanent, so not just on your turn, but your opponent's turn. So it makes him a little bit tougher to deal with in terms of just pure attacking. I mean, as a 4 cost, there are a lot of cards that are going to just get him out of play in other ways for your opponents, but he is someone that you're going to have to deal with, and even if he does go into drop, then our Goku Black is going to be able to get him back out of drop, right? And that's on play. So let's say you've played him a few turns ago, you play your Goku Black after your opponent KOs him, grab him right back out. The only tougher matchups where that's not going to work quite as well are going to be against other blue decks. But then you've got your Goku Black that your opponent's going to immediately want to deal with, because if you have 7 or fewer in hand, you could play a battle card with a cost of 4 or less, so you can do that every turn. If you're able to just continue to draw early on, there's a good chance you're going to have multiples of these in hand, potentially even multiples of these Gotenks, so that you can play 2 to 3 times in a row if you survive that long, where you're playing new Goku Blacks that are just going to be a nightmare to deal with. So there's that, which is really cool. Now, then we do have this guy, and he's another one where, you know, I'm debating going down to just 2 of, because I don't find myself playing him a lot, but he is a good 4 that would be able to be played for free with Goku Black if you don't have the other Gotenks in hand, and then he does allow you to get your Goten and Trunks Youth from drop to hand. So I don't think he's, I know he's nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as this Gotenks, now that he lets you play them in rest mode, because then you can just draw those 2, but he can be a good card to use in a pinch where you're at least able to draw your Trunks and your Goten from drop. In those cases, I may just go with this Trunks and along with that Goten, because that gives you a 20k from your drop combo that can help you defend. So that's what's good about him. I mean, he does have 25k attack, so nothing crazy, but you can attack with him as well if you really just have to play him with your Goku Black, right? Then from there, of course, we've got Zen-Ohs. We want to be able to deal with our opponent's board, kind of figure out early on if you really need him or not. Check out how your opponent's playing their board, because you may not need him. If you're setting yourself up well enough, he may be somebody that you want to combo away so that you can keep this guy in hand. And, you know, we do know that there are quite a few 0 combos in here. We've got 4 with the Gotenks. and then we've got 3 more with Goku Black and 3 with Videl. So sometimes you can find yourself in a tough position in terms of defense if you're not too careful, but you know, I think overall we do well. I did just throw in one of these guys in the deck as kind of a finisher that you throw in right at the end of the game. As I'm sure most people know about this Vegito by now, he's the 6 cost from the latest FB04 set. Having 0 cards in your deck doesn't cause you to lose the game, and if you do, this guy gets 10k power, right? So that can go up to a 50k, so he's just a great finisher if you can manage to get him out there when you have 0 cards in deck. And really, it's not extremely challenging to do so by turn 7 or 8. It might be a little bit tough if you're only, you know, right at that 6 energy, but you can usually play defense for a while anyway. Because of all of the draw power that we have, and especially if we're playing this guy, then that's just going to help us to draw even more. So it's not too challenging to get them out there, as a finisher. And then you've got, a lot of times you're going to get the first hit for 40k, and then you can use his ability, switch him to active mode, and get rid of those last 5 cards in your deck to get him to 50 and just finish off your opponent. So it's really cool card that works in this deck. I only put 1 because, again, it's another 0 combo card, and it is more situational. A lot of times Goku Black is a much better play, unless you're kind of out and you've got everybody out there already. You know, 2 50k swings, or a 40 and a 50, are definitely going to be better than a 40 and a 35. Then on here, you know, in the last iteration of the Vegeta deck, I was playing with Galactic Donut because it was kind of more comedic to run and just be able to draw the 2, and I found that Galick Gun just works a lot better. You're able to use it on defense, gives you the 15k, and you just draw 1 card. I was finding that the donut, while it was good, the problem with disabling my opponent's card was that the next turn I wasn't able to attack it. So there wasn't really much I could do. It was really just delaying the inevitable, and sometimes worked out worse because then I couldn't eliminate the card the turn after, and then I just hit again. So Galick Gun just works really well in this case. I like it a lot better, and that is, for the most part, the deck relatively simple in terms of the card content. Alright, slight change to the deck list. As I was recording, it just really hit me, and I was like, wait. Vegito is so much better of a card to put in than the old Trunks that I had. I mean, sorry, the 4-cost Gotenks from FB02. So initially you're going to see the list up there. You're probably going to see the Gotenks in here somewhere. But Vegito is the way to go. I haven't tested it out, but I'm just 100% confident because it's just going to help us be able to have a better 3-cost card to play, you know, because this guy we're not playing early on. So if I can get Vegito out there as early as possible, I'm just going to play 3. Then it's going to really help us be able to bottom deck better cards when we get our Gotenks out there. So I'm going with it. He has the same combo power, so let's just do it, okay? Pretend like he was there the whole time. The deck list is up here now, updated. It's in the description as it already as it was here. So anyway, Vegito. Talking about the strategy for this deck, it's really a defensive deck. You want to defend as long as possible, and you really also want to wait to awaken for as long as possible. While you do get that 25k compared to the 15k, there's not a ton of advantages, and the problem is that once you do flip over, then you are not going to be drawing anymore. So it's a lot of times a lot better to just defend for as long as possible, and then once you have a large enough hand and you think, okay, or maybe it's impossible to defend at this point anymore, then you can flip, and then you get 25k for defense, and you can use this ability so that you can add a card from your deck to your life. So kind of works out pretty well for you there. From there, early on, you know, you're really going to be working on drawing and attacking in a way. You do want to keep pressuring your opponent. You do want to get their board, to be as little as possible, as low as possible, because you want them to have only maybe 1 to 2 attackers out there, because for the most part that's all you're going to be able to play on your turn with your Goku Black and Gotenks. And if they are able to defend, then it can be a real struggle where they're continuously adding, and you might get to a point where you want to actually play some non-attackers that turn so that you can get that hand size back up. So you want to get to the point where late game you're able to play attackers one turn, and then another turn you replenish that hand by using that Gotenks that lets you play your 2 draw cards of Goten and Trunks, right? So mid, you're really working on getting your drop numbers up too. In an ideal world, by the time you play your Gotenks, you're already at 10. That might not happen by turn 4, but you know, especially by turn 6 when you're dropping your Gotenks with your Goku Black, you really want to have your 10 cards in drop. That 5k makes a big difference. A lot of times it's the difference between them defending with 1 or 2 cards or having to use a super combo to defend, right? And late, we're pressure with Black and Gotenks, getting stuff back from the draw from your drop when you're playing him, but also trying to keep that hand size as big as possible so that when you do get down and have to start making decisions on defending or not, then you're able to do that so that you can either discard and add another life if you take one, or just don't take that life, because it's easier to defend 25k compared to 15 or 20k of other leaders. Right? Strengths and weaknesses of the deck. It is a very great deck for draw power. If all things go your way and you have a pretty decent starting hand, then you're able to really continuously draw throughout the game and able to get those cards back from the drop so that you can keep the draw going. So it's really good in that regards with draw power, which also means it's easier to find the cards that you need. Obviously, the more you draw, the better chance you have of having your Goku Black and Gotenks in hand by the time you're ready to play them. Right? Then from there, it's a very defensive deck. The draw power allows you to have plenty in hand to use as combo to, you know, make sure that your opponent's not landing those attacks on your life. But at the same time, then our leader, when you get down to 3 life, is going to have that 25k. So it really plays well off of the fact that, you know, this is a defensive deck. Right, there's also really good hand and drop manipulation here with Gotenks. Gotenks plays really well, gets cards into drop to power up, and then allows you to pull back from drop as needed. We've got plenty to draw from drop to help us keep things flowing here, right? And then once you really get to it, then Gotenks and Goku Black are pretty deadly. Goku Black itself, when you drop him, helps you get a 4 cost or less from drop. A lot of times you're not even getting that Gotenks. You may be getting the you may not be getting this Gotenks, right? Because you can grab him from drop, but sometimes you might be getting this Gotenks out to set yourself up for next turn, right? So they're deadly. And then this guy, if you are able to get, you know, a 3 cost or less, then he can bottom deck them. And then later on, it is really good to try and get yourself a Mai in hand so that you can, rather than dropping just a 3 cost, you can do a 4 cost. Usually 5 costs will be a little bit tougher of a play. You would need to drop 2 of these, but even for 7 energy to be able to drop a Mai first, reduce the cost by 1, then throw yourself a Goku Black with the Gotenks out there, and then you can get a 4 cost like a Jiren, get rid of him pretty easily, right? I mean, well, it's not necessarily easy, but you can get rid of him. Okay, now the weaknesses of this deck, you know, early on there are not a lot of attackers. Right? You do have your Trunks, but you are going to struggle to get down to 7 cards, and you don't really want to force yourself to get down to 7 to help him attack, right? If he can attack, it is what it is. He's just out there mean mugging your opponent. I wouldn't try to force yourself down to 7 to attack. Just kind of let him hang out. If your opponent wants to deal with him, that's fine. It's less that they're going to hit your life for, and less that they may do, I don't know, other random things for your later attackers, right? So that is a weakness though still, right? You don't really have anyone who can attack with any significant power until Gotenks, and really only 2. I mean, we've got Gotenks and Goku Black, so it can make you a little bit limited, right? So that can be a tough. So it also, because of that, makes you struggle early on to aggro decks that are going to play guys that are like, I just played recently one that played a lot of vanilla 25k 3-cost attackers, so I was really struggling against that because, you know, I can't really do much until I'm getting my Gotenks out. By the time he's out, it's a lot of energy. They're dropping a couple of those guys a turn, whereas I'm only able to drop one for quite some time. Right, and then, yeah, it makes you struggle early against aggro and wide boards. Yet again, we're in the future. I almost forgot to re-record this part, and I thought maybe I would cut it. But anyway, as I took out this Gotenks, so this one would be one that you might want to consider throwing back in there too if you really want to give it like ultimate draw hand and draw power, because what I did was remove this Gotenks from the deck to throw in the 3 Vegito 4-cost, but this one is good because you're able to get a Goten and Trunks from drop and into your hand, so straight to hand rather than playing them and getting the draw. So, you know, maybe you ran out of your old man Gotenks or not, but this one is one to think about throwing in there, right? The other one I think about would be the Double Strike Vegeta, wherever the heck he is. I went down. And I would consider this one over this one. I mean, you could almost go with either of them, especially now that we've got Vegeta Vegito in there that can lower by 1. But the downside of this one is you're getting 3 or less. But the upside is you're giving this even more draw power, because if you have 7 or more, you're going to draw a card. So this one, I do like this one, but I would honestly go with this one just to give you the guarantee of the 4. And let's say that you do have Vegito out that can give you a 5. Let's say you throw out a Mai out there. If you're at 6 energy, you can do a 6. So this is the Vegeta I would consider if you really want a double strike in there. The problem is, what are we going to eliminate? You know, honestly, it could be something to consider with this Trunks, but I'm thinking I'm going to do without the double cost. Now, again, I've got a few others. They're really on the high cost card end, the next one would be the Gohan Adolescence as a 4-cost. You know, it's a good one. You're going to gain the advantage of getting 2 3-cost cards bottom deck. But in my opinion, I'm usually going to go ahead and rather play the Gotenks. Between 30k to 35k is a really big difference, in my opinion, for getting your opponent's cards. So I really am doing without this Gohan here, but, you know, that's up to you. Another one here to think about too, this one's not going to be able to bottom deck you, but you are going to have the crit in here with this Gotenks. And on play, you're going to be placing the top 2 cards of your deck into your drop. But if you have 10 or more, you draw a card. So it is another draw power card. As a 4-cost draw for dealing 30k, it's pretty solid. I would like to be able to throw this one into my deck, especially considering we can play him at the same time as our Goku Black. But what to put in for him? This is even a deck, to be quite honest, I almost want to put all of these cards in and just make it a 60-card deck, because it does have so much draw power, and there's a world where you might just throw everything in here and get to 60. You know, like maybe throw in 2 of these, 2 of the Gohans, that's 4. Let's throw in the other Gotenks back, 2 of those, that's 6. And then the next couple ones I'm going to talk about, which are Galactic Donut and Proud Saiyan. I mean, are you crazy enough? Maybe. But anyway, so Galactic Donut is the one that I actually originally had when I built this deck, because it does give you the draw power, and then it's going to go ahead and you're choosing any of your opponent's cards and they can't attack. I did take it out because I felt like I wanted to go with Galick Gun, which is just a better pick. And the 2 draw compared to 1 isn't a humongous difference, especially considering it's a 3-cost compared to the 1. The disabling, to be honest, is good, but it's not great, because a lot of times they're going to attack with that card, and it's better to just go ahead and eliminate them. You know, try to eliminate, because we do have a decent amount when we're getting later of high powered cards. And then if you don't, you're only disabling it for a turn, and then you can't actually attack the turn after, so you can't really do much about that card anyway. So I'm going to go with no. Proud Saiyan is another one that I really like this card. This is a good card. It's It's like a high-powered Galick Gun in the sense that you're getting 20k power in drawing a card. The difference is obviously that you can only use it on your opponent's turn. So you may want to add a few in there, or just replace your Galick Gun. But I like Galick Gun better because you can use on your turn or your opponent's. And that will do it for this episode of the Hawks Dragon Ball Nest. I'm excited to show off this deck. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Is it a viable deck? Can we use this one online? Should I use it in my locals this weekend? That's a good question. It's between that one or the Vegeta deck. By the time either of those two videos dropped, I will have made that decision. So let me know which one I should have used, and I'll let you know in reply if I used it or not, and if it was successful for me. But anyway, before you leave, before we let everyone go back to the regularly scheduled programs, then hit that subscribe button so that you can become part of the Hawks Nest. We are a fearless flock of fabulous folks who are passionate about peak performance. I'm passionate about just finding the craziest decks that are not meta. I mean, I'm sure everybody like theory crafts, and I'm not saying I'm gonna find like the deck that's gonna win it all, but just different, just taking a different approach. To me, I gotta go from scratch, and that's what this is all about. I really look at concepts, and I'll get some ideas from people, but I'm always gonna go from scratch and really see what I could come up with, and that's what I'm passionate about. And so whatever you're passionate about, let me know in the comments. Let me know what type of decks you're making, or non-decks, or whatever, man. Let me know. I'm interested in anything. So anyway, if you're not quite ready to fly yet, though, just hit that like button. We'll see you again in the algorithm, and hopefully we'll hang out again soon.